Are you considering bariatric surgery because you've gotten to the point where you realize your work just isn't quite enough and something seems off and you know you need help and you're just tired and you're ready for some help? This video is for you. Would you like to learn more about the topics that were discussed today? Join us at radicallyhealthy.com, where we're combining lifestyle with other tools to add to our toolbox. We have many offerings, from a free community to a private community and even one-on-one support. Hope to see you there. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Adrian. I have tried everything to maintain a healthy weight since just being a little kid, from restricting and running, Biggest Loser, Gastric Bypass, keto, carnivore. I've tried it all, and I'd love to speak to you and understand where you are and what happened in my case and what I found that actually works and what did not work. So to start out, if you don't know my story, and if you do, I'm sorry, I'll try to be fast. I've struggled with weight my entire life. I've always been the biggest kid. I've always been puffy and overweight. I've been a chronic weight gainer. I've struggled with lots of overeating, never feeling full, but also being a real hard worker who wanted to overcome this. There's been breaks where I've been really tired, but overall, this has been something I've been working on my whole life and working pretty darn hard and willing, honestly, to go to any lengths. So in my 20s, when I saw The Biggest Loser, I was like, ooh, that's the ticket. Look at these beautiful people. Look at these success stories. We should do this. So somehow, I believe it was God, I ended up on that show and I was very successful. I lost about 66 pounds, I think, through lots of exercise and very measured out calorie deficit, eating whole foods, measuring things. It was very strategic, the plan that I was given by Dr. Huizenga, and I was very successful at it. But before the show even aired, I already started gaining weight back. I felt like a failure. I felt like, why can't I keep this off? I went into hiding almost. I gained all of my 66 pounds back plus another 100. So I started out about 230, got down to about 160, went up to 330 pounds. That is when I was like, from there on, I've been on a mission to get this weight off. So the first thing I did was go back to Biggest Loser. I started running 5 days a week, doing HIIT classes, eating, low fat, lots of veg, lots of chicken, and tracking everything I was doing. I was very meticulous about everything I did, and I was very successful. I lost 100 pounds doing that. And anybody who's lost 30 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, you are freaking amazing. But there was a problem. When I hit 230 pounds, I'm still very obese, and my weight started going back up. And that was the point where I knew something was up. I knew I needed help. I knew something wasn't quite right with my body. And I knew there had to be something else, because I'm already doing all of the things we were told to do, having success at it, but my body saying absolutely not. That's when I explored, at that time, the only medical options were gastric bypass or the sleeve. I decided to go with the gastric bypass. It made so much sense to me. Something is wrong. Like, my stomach feels like a 5-gallon bucket. I can endlessly eat. So if we shrink the size of my stomach, that should help that feeling of the endless 5-gallon bucket. The getting rid of part of the intestine made sense to me, because I wasn't eating much. I was eating 1,200 calories, but I was gaining weight. So my body is obviously over absorbing these foods, was the thought at the time. So the gastric bypass made so much sense to me. So I decided to go forward with that surgery. Here's what happened. I am a rule follower and a hard worker. I knew I had to continue tracking my food. I had to focus on protein. I knew I had to continue my workouts. And so I was a studious, good, grade A, or you could give me an A on my effort, following the rules, doing things the healthiest way possible. I never really got to my goal. I got to 165, same with high school, 165, same with Biggest Loser, 165, gastric bypass, I get to 165. But the plan of the gastric bypass is to eat between a half a cup and a cup of food, and do that as many times a day as you need to. So you're kind of always eating, because you can only eat little bits, and that just didn't seem to work. It kind of felt like being a caged animal, because my head was really hungry, but my stomach would not allow me to eat. You knew that you needed more energy and more calories, like the chronic fatigue kind of started setting in then. And so you would find a workaround, like cheese or yogurt or peanut butter, things that you could physically get into your stomach and give you calories and energy, but, things that are higher in fat and stuff like that. This entire time too, I was very low carb before the surgery and even after the surgery. Low carb for me started, my surgery was 12 years ago. So 13, 14 years ago, for sure, very low carb. So I'm following all the things, but I'm already 6 months in starting to have the weight gain, having the food noise where you're hungry. And then I went to the doctor. I said, you know what? It seems like something's wrong. Why am I not getting to my goal? Why am I stuck? Why am I struggling with weight gain already just 6 months in? And they were pretty much like, you just need to track your food better. Sometimes they were like, you just have to add calories, which didn't make any sense because I would add calories, I would gain weight. They didn't really have an answer. I don't recall them they definitely didn't run thorough labs. That's for sure. And prior to the surgery, now that I know what thorough labs look like, they were not run before the surgery either. We didn't identify why I was overweight. We basically just assumed it was because I'm bad and I'm overeating, was the assumption. Not hormones, not thyroid, not digestive enzyme balances, not communication pathways inside the body, not energy pathways, not nutrition deficiencies, just straight up, I must be eating too much, so this will help you eat less and absorb less. As you know, if you skip 150 centimeters of your intestine, that is where so much of your digestive process and signaling happens, and we're skipping it. So dumping food deep into your intestine has consequences. It is hard for your body. Now, you already weren't responding appropriately to food because you're having chronic weight gain, but now you're responding to food worse because your body doesn't even know what to do with this. When we dump food deep into the intestine, it gives no chance for your body to have time to react to that food. I never had dumping syndrome where you eat something and then you just go to the bathroom right away. That's essentially what it was explained to me. And I was like, well, that actually sounds great. I'd love to eat and then just poop it out. I know that's a little disordered thinking, but when you're a chronic weight gainer, that sounds pretty good. Like that sounds better than getting fat. But I never one time had that symptom. I had other things happen. Since the surgery, I've had nutrient deficiencies, chronic anemia, lots of B vitamin issues, and the worst of all, which it took me a long time to figure this out, was reactive hypoglycemia. And not everybody gets this in the beginning, and they might not even get it for 5 years, but whether it takes 6 months or 10 years, a lot of people end up with blood sugar issues. Why? Because again, we are skipping so much of the signaling centers of our digestive system that it doesn't have time to react appropriately. So I was already low carb, but I'm still having reactive hypoglycemia. So what I did was go lower and lower and lower carb in an attempt to avoid these episodes of reactive hypoglycemia. I do know for a fact that they're reactive hypoglycemia. Some people say, oh, that's not what it is. It's a nutrient deficiency or something like that. But for me, I've actually tested my blood sugar and I've seen it in the 30s. And the 30s wasn't even necessarily caught at the lowest point because I had eaten something, had somebody bring the glucose monitor over. And so time had passed before I even checked and it was in the 30s. I've checked it many, many times. So definitely, I've also had CGMs. So I've seen the advice from the doctor was to start carrying around sugar pills and eat sugar pills. But what happens, and you learn this very quickly, is that it does bring your blood sugar up and then you dive back down again and you end up on this roller coaster. And again, this doesn't always happen immediately, but it often happens to people by 10 years out, and people have it at different levels. So some people like me have it incredibly bad. And then some people it's annoying, but if you primarily avoid carbohydrates, you're fine. So this issue is completely controlling my life. Like I remember one time taking the kids to the Mall of America, and in the middle of Mall of America, I have a baby and 2 early elementary kids, and my blood sugar drops. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I'm sitting there shaking and sweating, and I can't tell my little kids to go get me some food, and we are stuck, and your blood sugar is not coming back up. I have had these blood sugar events happen when I was driving, and I was able to just pull over before I passed out. So what happens with these events is there's not really a forewarning. It's like a rump, you're down. And so there's not a lot of time to react. This is honest to goodness what I do. I keep the carnivore bar with me. And you've got to have one that has just a touch of honey in it because you need something to bring you up. But why the carnivore bar? Because it is encapsulated in fat and protein. That's easy for you to get it into your bloodstream because it's freeze-dried dehydrated protein, beef protein that's broken down. So because you've got the fat and the protein, so you've got the honey to bring you back up, but you've got the fat and protein to kind of smooth you out. So now, even though I've found ways to regulate this so much better, I always leave with a carnivore bar. So if I was ever in the Mall of America and it happened again, I would have that right there to rescue me. This is my rescue medicine. This is my EpiPen right here. And I'm not joking. In theory, you could keep peanut butter with you, but the problem with the peanut butter, A, it could get in your purse. B is that peanuts are inflammatory and inflammation makes this condition worse. So peanut butter wasn't the best ticket, although it is an effective one. So if you want to keep peanut butter packets, you could try that. But again, over time, that's actually contributing to the issue. So keep the carnivore bar with me. So next, I find keto. And along the way, I'm still just struggling with weight gain. So I never hit my goal. And pretty quickly, I'm already back to where I was at 230 pounds, struggling with chronic weight gain. And, as a rule follower, this shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. So I'm having issues. It didn't solve my weight issue, and it added these other things that are chronic and lifelong now. And then on top of it, one of the biggest things is you're still hungry just like you were. It might go away for a little bit. The hunger might go away, maybe even for a year, but it comes back because you didn't address why you were having chronic hunger to begin with. I do have to say, one of the things that I found that managed this the best was the carnivore diet. I mean, I took out the green beans, I took out the lettuce, I took out the squash, and I started having almost no episodes, only stress-related episodes, because there is a stress hormone piece to these reactive hypoglycemic episodes. So I'm mostly controlling it with the carnivore diet. Even on the carnivore diet, after time, I was having food noise. I was having chronic weight gain. I was having fatigue issues. My hair started falling out, and not just a little bit, it fell out for like 6 months. And so in the end, the carnivore diet, although it was much better than a low carb diet with this reactive hypoglycemia, it wasn't curing the inflammation. It wasn't curing the food noise. It wasn't curing the weight issues. And so ultimately, the carnivore diet did not suffice for this. Now, I've heard some people say that they plan on having gastric bypass and then doing the carnivore diet. Do you realize you can't? Not for a long time. As your stomach is healing, it is very difficult to eat meat. After you dissect your stomach the way that they do, your digestive enzymes go way down and they tank out really fast. So I've been able to rebuild those enzymes, but if I, let's say, intermittent fast, they seem to dive off very quickly. And I've interviewed other people who are having the same thing. So if your digestive enzymes dive off, now when you eat meat, it gets stuck and it's a lot of pain. And the only way to fix it essentially is to throw up because it's literally stuck. And I know you're probably thinking, well, I can just chew. You can, but what if you see a squirrel and you swallow? And now you're stuck. It is very difficult to eat meat after gastric bypass, although I was able to do the carnivore diet. But again, the digestive enzymes would die off pretty quickly and I would run into stuck issues. So it's a very difficult combo, although not impossible and much better than low carb for me and whatever. But ultimately, Biggest Loser didn't fix it. Running and restricting didn't fix it. Low carb didn't fix it. Gastric bypass didn't fix my obesity issues. Carnivore didn't fix my obesity issues. So I ended up finally opening my mind to this GLP-1 thing. But before I did that, it was a lot of research of what that even is because people demonize it, including myself. If you look at any of my information prior to a year ago, you'll find very anti-Ozempic posts. And it was not only the information I was hearing, but also the people I was seeing who were just getting so skinny and not looking healthy and not eating healthy and not lifting weights. and just not looking good. And then you hear about all the side effects and you're like, ooh, why would you do that to yourself? I personally have been, when I was carnivore, very careful about my calorie deficit to ensure I was nourishing myself. And you look at these people on a GLP-1 and you're like, they're not nourishing themselves. It doesn't sound like it's for me. But then I learned what GLP-1 actually is. It's actually a peptide, a digestive peptide that signals all over your body, and our body already has it. So it's similar to supplementing thyroid when your thyroid is low. It's supplementing testosterone when you have low testosterone, or progesterone because you have low progesterone. And so when you supplement a deficiency, you feel your body comes back to a state of homeostasis and you start feeling good. I started learning how GLP-1 improves the signaling to the pancreas. Part of the reason we're having chronic weight gain is because the pancreas isn't properly secreting the insulin, glucagon, and all the other digestive hormones we need to regulate blood sugar and create energy out of that fuel. So the whole problem here was that my body wasn't responding properly to food. When I had the gastric bypass, my response to food got worse. In the long run, it did not solve the actual issue that signaling wasn't getting to my brain or to my pancreas or to all over my body. I started learning how we have receptors for GLP-1 everywhere, and that if you supplement a deficiency in this, it improves the communication everywhere. So you're seeing things are strengthening, everything from your brain to your bones to your bowels, as Dr. Boz will say. I'm going to give her credit for saying that because I thought that was really good. You see a lot of gut healing over time and then with the reduced inflammation, with an uninflamed holy gut, your body can slowly rebalance the proper enzymes and bacteria in there to respond better to food, so you have less food reactions. That takes time. It's not out of the gate, but it definitely has happened for me where I stopped having so many food reactions, because one of the things that happened after gastric bypass is more and more and more food reactions. After GLP-1, I no longer have to eat at home every single meal. I don't have to say, what spices did you put on this? I no longer have to eat freezer to table to freezer to avoid histamine. So many things have changed. It's just opening up, getting that gut healed. One of the best parts is improving that signaling to the brain. And I know people call that appetite suppression, and I'm very scared when you say appetite suppression. Like, I don't want anything unhealthy here. But what it did at the right dose for me was restore proper signaling to the brain. So I'm eating a proper meal. If I can't eat a proper meal, you're on a little too much. You eat your meal and you're full, and then you just don't even think about eating again until it's time to eat another meal. When you feel this for the first time, you realize why skinny people are skinny, because the signaling is actually getting to their brain. So they're not literally starving all the time. I was literally starving all the time previously. With carnivore, I did see some quiet, like in the beginning of carnivore, but it came back. So I started chasing it and trying to find that again. Maybe if I cut dairy, maybe if I cut everything but beef, maybe if I cut everything but sardines, maybe if I just water fast, it would temporarily make that food noise go away, but it would come right back, even being strict, tracking what I was doing and videotaping it. So it's not made up that carnivore was not the long-term ticket for me. It did not heal my gut. It did not heal my signaling to my brain. It did not heal the signaling to my pancreas. And in fact, there is some evidence to suggest, and I believe it to be true, that if we aren't properly signaling to the pancreas and we stop even trying to get an appropriate insulin response, that your insulin responses get worse over time. So although your labs are temporarily suppressed, if you were to eat carbohydrates again, you are likely to see a worse reaction, at least temporarily, to the food. Your reactions are getting worse, not better, to foods that we have eaten throughout all of time. So it reinstates to the brain, gives you normal signaling to the brain, telling you to be hungry when it's appropriate, telling you when to be full when it's appropriate. And the next thing I noticed was when I was carnivore, to lose 5 pounds, I had to walk a half marathon a day, lift 3 times a week, and do things like sardine fasting, SMF, water fasting. I'd have to do these really extreme things just to move the needle a couple of pounds, and they would just come right back. When I added a GLP-1 and did those same things, I lost way too much. So I actually had to pull back on the extreme things I was doing to lose at a slower pace. I never wanted to just get to goal in 5 seconds because I knew that would equate to metabolic adaptation where your hormones downregulate and say, let's go into preservation mode, where you lose your hair, your thyroid, you start getting cold, you lose your muscle, all the problems. So I wanted to lose slower. So in adding a GLP-1, getting proper signaling to food, I finally got to live again. I no longer had to walk 12 miles a day. Let's go for 2 to 4. And let's do it 3 times a week. And as far as eating, I didn't have to be at such a absolutely perfect deficit every single day. I did do some experiments, and I noticed that most of my reactive hypoglycemia events were gone on a GLP-1. I was truly restoring proper signaling to food instead of improper, where I'm diving out and having low blood sugar. So I can tell that this is actually regulating signaling, which was the problem to begin with. There's so much more I could say. Another thing was the further that I carnivored, the worse that my inflammation got, the worse that my cycles got, the worse my fatigue and brain fog got. That was getting worse on a GLP-1 that's gotten so much better. I no longer have 14-pound swings of inflammation. It's just such a relief to not wake up 10 pounds heavier the next day because this chronic inflammation is swinging so hard. I could tell my body was stressed out. The GLP-1 reduced a lot of stress on my body, and it's just my skin is better. My nails are better. My hair is better. My hair started growing back in finally. My nails grow so fast that I'm actually clipping them. I'm not biting them anymore for that hedonic mouth behavior that I constantly have. I was having my whole life where I was like biting my nails all the time because I needed like that oral fixation. The obsessive thoughts about food, not eating food. What am I going to eat? Don't do that. Why did you do that? All of the thoughts, positive and negative, that were coming, and they were 24/7 every minute about food and doing everything right or wrong or good or bad, that disappeared. That just allowed me to start living my life and to focus on other things like sleep, like relaxation, like family, like friends. So ultimately, I would say if you're considering bariatric surgery, please consider that this isn't going to resolve the actual issue that's occurring, which is improper hormone signaling to your food. But GLP-1s actually restore that signaling. If you're not into GLP-1 and you're just like, absolutely not, then I suggest you look up Jay Feldman and Mike Fave. They have done a lot of research on all the different diets, and they've tried all the different diets, like literally tried them. And they have a combination of basically all of the diets in a way that actually heals people, addresses your nutrient deficiencies, addresses your liver health, addresses your high cholesterol and your thyroid, addresses the enzymes and the bacteria in your gut. And so that's another route that you could go that would be better. But I don't know, like millions of people that have gone that route. But if you're more of a natural person, I highly suggest you check them out. I would have never believed them until I tried the GLP-1 and felt regulation for myself that was truly something that could be attained. And knowing now that that's something that could be attained, that's a route you could go. And I think those guys are so brilliant. So those are some things you could try instead of surgery. I really, honest to God, think they should stop at a minimum doing gastric bypass. It does cause lifelong issues and it does not solve the issue. If you absolutely have to get a surgery because that's where you're at. And I see you and I get you. You are tired. You've been doing the things and you need some help and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you need a tool to help you. I would go for the sleeve over gastric bypass every day of the week because you're not going to have the missing intestine that you really need. Some people have hypoglycemia after the sleeve, but it's much more rare. But gastric bypass, it's not rare to have severe blood sugar issues after that surgery. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope you'll take it to heart before doing something that's not reversible versus if you try a GLP-1 and you decide you don't like it, you can just stop taking it. The message out there that's causing permanent damage, it's not true. It's literally not true. There can be temporary side effects. Often those are from people who had pre-existing conditions and that GLP-1 aggravated something they already had going on, like an eye issue or a gastro issue. Once you back down on your dose, those symptoms typically go away. There are no cases of permanent gastroparesis. That is a flat out lie. There's no correlation between thyroid cancer and the GLP-1. That was only seen in rats, and it was a rat cancer. And further studies have been done showing that there's no correlation between thyroid cancer and GLP-1. You got to remember, GLP-1 is actually a natural digestive hormone that we have, and you're just supplementing it. Oh, one quick thing too. Why are we pinning it? I don't like the word injection. Injection reminds me of like a big fat needle going into your arm. Why are we pinning it under our skin? Because part of the problem here is that our digestive health is not good. And so when you try to take things orally, we don't know what's going to happen, if it's actually going to hit the bloodstream and hit the brain and hit the pancreas and hit all the organs it's supposed to. So by pinning it, we bypass that and get it right to the whole places in all of your body. I guess I should talk about a few more of the side effects that people claim are so rampant. A lot of it is due to dosing. Start low, go slow. Some people are only going to need little bits to get therapy. Some people are going to need standard dosing. Other things to look into are getting a full thyroid panel, your reverse T3, your free T3, your antibodies, getting your hormones tested by someone who's good at that. I suggest Emily at Elevate Health and Hormones. You can email her info@Elevate Health and Hormones. Tell her I sent you. She'll take $100 off the initial lab reading. So it's usually $299. It'll be $199. And she can tell you what's going on with you. You don't necessarily have to create long-standing care, although I highly suggest it. But at least you would know from someone who's deeply looking into your symptoms and your labs what's actually going on behind the scenes. Another problem is people will go on a GLP-1, hope it fixes everything. And it doesn't always. It can help a lot of things, but it doesn't always necessarily fix the low thyroid and the low hormones. So making sure you're checking into that in addition is a really good idea. Yeah, so start low, go slow. Semaglutide, which is also known as Ozempic and Wegovy, that can be very gastro heavy. So people experience more gastro side effects. It doesn't have to happen again if you start low and go slow. Some people don't see success on that. It's just one hormone. I use tirzepatide, also called Zepbound or Mounjaro. Those are the name brands for it, but I take compounded tirzepatide. It has two hormones that it helps regulate. And the two hormones are shown to be twice as effective without as many side effects, if at all. I've never really had side effects to speak of at all that I can think of. If you're looking for a provider, I highly suggest joinmochi.com. That's who I've been using. They are the most affordable. It is the same rate no matter what your dose is, where if you order it locally from a local compounding pharmacy, it is often a nice starting price, but as you need to dose up, it becomes crazy, like $800 a month. It's the same with the med spas. It can become crazy expensive if you go those routes. If you're name brand, that's great if you can get insurance coverage. There are ways to split the pens if the standard dosing is not right for you, and there's videos on that. And if you join radicallyhealthy.com, we have a free community that has resources, and in there is the video from a doctor on how you could split the pens if the standard dosing doesn't quite fit you. You're an in-betweener, or you could even, so there's that. We also have a private community at radicallyhealthy.com, and we have 8 coaching calls per month where I give little tidbits of what things that could help you along your journey. And then each person speaks if they want to. Nobody has to. You don't even have to turn your camera on if you don't want to. Speaks on what the victories and the challenges they're having for the week, and we come together and support each other, and it's wonderful. We constantly have people hitting their goal, and on top of that, healing other things that have been bothering them, that have been on the back burner, because the chronic weight gain and the chronic inflammation, those issues were so in your face and every day that they didn't have capacity to address those other issues. So when we take that huge load off of you, that huge load of the chronic weight gain, the food reactions, the food addiction, all of those things, and we take off the inflammation and we start healing the gut, now we can start looking at the other pieces in your life that maybe are struggling as well. So it's a great group. If you're not a group person, I also offer one-on-one support. So radicallyhealthy.com is a great place for that. Regardless of what you choose on your journey, I just hope that you are successful. I'm going to send prayers for success and peace, and that you stop fighting this fight. We went out to dinner with our family the other day, and there's several of us on this, and I saw us finally winning the battle. And we have been fighting this battle our entire lives, and we are finally winning the battle for the first time in our lives. We don't have to wake up in the morning and go, okay, today I'm going to beat obesity. It's just being one. I have been able to stop tracking food. That's the first time in my life, because every other time in my life, if I'm not tracking food, I'm gaining weight. So I have the freedom to truly just eat and be a human and not have to obsess about the chronic weight gain and the food noise and the chronic inflammation. I can just live my life. I no longer have to chronically exercise. I can just do healthy exercise, weightlifting, and walking. I get to focus on relaxation and sleep for the first time in my life, where before, some of those things really had to take a back burner, because if I wasn't perfect and I wasn't on it, I was gaining weight. So I see you and I hear you, and I hope no matter which route you go, that you find relief, because this is chronic and it's endless and it's exhausting. And I hope the population can all find the answers that they need to feel their best. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Goodbye.